Hello everyone, welcome to another Skull and Bones sort of tutorial slash tips and tricks kind of thing. I am your host today, Phoenix61. These are the Fire Bombard weapons on the deck that you see here. These yellow and blue sort of cannon looking things, right? But they're called bombards, right? And these are the fire variant for them. And you can get these pretty early on, as well as this ship. This is still a small level ship, so I literally, this loadout that I'm rocking right now is, I'm literally 2 days into the game, if that, right? Like, I did play some open beta, and so I did do some material collecting, so, I was a little bit ahead on that front. But these are, I'm still in sort of the starter area, at least for this this fight here, so we're plundering to get some materials at the time, right? And so you can see down the bottom left, it says that the ship is a 6, and of course the enemies here are ship level 1s, right? So we're we've got that, that much more of an ease ahead of us, right? But a lot of times with these, like, I didn't even shoot that guy. I think I hit him maybe once and he just burned, right? So we were shooting the tower, right? So with this loadout, a lot of times you can if you trigger fires on anything around other enemies, it scorches all the other enemies in the vicinity, right? So like, we're lighting people on fire that we weren't even shooting, and then they just burn too, especially at these lower levels. Like, here's a level 2 ship, right? So he went down pretty quick too, right? But yeah, so this is not difficult to get. I will show you how to do this. We'll do a little bit of plundering here to kind of start off the video. But yeah, like I said, this is fairly early on in the game, and then it just kind of makes, doing a lot of these, like, the missions and other progress and stuff like that a little bit easier to have this sort of loadout. These bombards, they are a little bit, they take a little bit more getting used to than I think the regular cannons, because they definitely arch, right? And like, so when a ship shows up real close to you like that, you almost have to aim down at it to get the, to get the projectile to hit, right? So, but you can see, yeah, he went down in like 1 or 2 shots there, pretty much, right? So we're making super easy work of plundering here. And this ship too it's actually a level 3 when you first buy it. So like the base level of the ship, right, is a 3, and then once you start equipping like armor and weapons and stuff on it, then it starts, ticking up, right? So it goes up to 6. So this is a very early on ship that you can get, and this is one of the DPS variants, right? So we'll make work of this guy in 2 hits, right? It's just like he's done. But yeah, and then so like there is another ship that I picked. You start off with your your boat that literally has nothing in it, right? And you can throw a spear, right? And then you get to St. Anne, and pretty quickly you can build, a small ship that you can equip some cannons on and stuff like that. And then after that, you start to be able to make some choices, right? So the first one I went with was the support class, with which gives you some like healing effects just in general, like you're just constantly healing a little bit. It's small amounts, right? So it's nothing huge, but that was really nice to have really early, like before this ship, so that just like go around and do like some random missions and then collect materials, right? But it was a little bit short-lived, and I probably should have been shorter lived for me, right? Because once I got into this, I really liked the healing effect, right? So it heals itself like over time, right? So we'll show you how to get this loadout that I have. Step 1 is to find this orange leopard print skirt. Just kidding. I felt like it really brought out my ribs in my character, so yeah. But you go to the shipwright in St. Anne. I'll show you which ones we're using. But yeah, so this rammer here, like this is the one you can first build, right? So pretty much right out of the gate, you can build that ship. And then, there's a defender class. And then this Sentinel cutter, like this is the one that I first built just because I got easier access to it. Like it was available quicker for me, right? But what I really liked was this, restores damage and restores health over time, right? So that made it really nice to like just go around and collect stuff, like, harvest materials and stuff like that. But it was a little bit of a challenge for fighting, right? So we upgraded to this firebrand. And this is what we're using, right? So I'm like, okay, it looks like it has, perks related to, fire weapons, right? So I'm gonna just like capitalize on that, right? It was my thought process. You get a couple extra furniture slots and stuff like that too. But yeah, so burning damage increases a blade's charge speed by 150%. Like, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think it has something to do with when you're lighting people on fire, right? And you can tell too, like you'll see their ship kind of explode when you hit them, right? And then you'll see the damage over time too. But these, I am using, so I'm not using any of these like regular cannons, these all deck cannons or whatever on this first tab, right? So you want to bumper over, you can see this says top deck cannons, right? And then these are the fire bombards, right? So, and I was actually even able to kind of skip the level 1 ones. I was like, all right, what do I need for the fire bombards 2? And so I was able to get those pretty easily. And so if you don't know sort of how to, because you have, with the blacksmith, you're going to have to unlock the blueprint, right? And then you need, the certain materials, right? So anything in here that you think you want, so if you want to get the fire bombards, 1 or 3 or 2, right? I think the 3s you need to get you need pieces of 8, so you need the more expensive, the harder to find currency, right? Where you need to start doing stuff for your like distillery and black market, whatever it's called, right? And then these enhanced long guns, the fire long guns, that's what I'm using on the front of my ship as well, right? So I felt like that was a good mix, but yeah. So I'm using the fire bombards too. And what you can do is you can push X or, the related button to track the blueprint. And then you can see all up in the top right with all the stuff that you need, right? So step 1 may be finding the blueprint, and that'll be in there too, right? And then if you go to the map view, when you have that blueprint tracked, it will show you like where the materials are, like where you can find them on the map, right? So you may have to do some exploring, you may have to venture into some areas where you haven't gone before, but yeah. And then for furniture, I can't tell you exactly how I got all these because I had just been playing. But basically I went in here and was like, okay, anything that has to do with like DPS or like elemental or fire, like I was like, I'm gonna put that on here, right? This scoping station, the perk doesn't trigger unless you're 320 meters away from somebody. It is pretty difficult sometimes to hit somebody 320 meters away, but whatever, right? Like, I'm trying it out. But here, slot 2 increases elemental damage multiplier of bombard by 19%. I'm like, that fits, that's me, right? I want to use these fire bombards, right? So, and then for slot 3, increases damage to enemy ships with the ablaze effect by 10%. I'm like, okay, that seems to be specific to this ship. This ship talked about blaze and stuff, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put that on there, right? So, and I think with this combination of furniture and stuff, but like if you don't have those specific ones, don't fret it. I don't think it's that huge of a deal, right? I think it's just put on you use this ship. Put on those fire bombards, whatever, if you can do the 1s, great. If you can do the 2s, a little bit better, right? And then just kind of go from there, right? So, here's, I'll show you how to kind of track a blueprint too. So this is a ship that I'm working towards, this bombardier, right? This is a medium-sized ship, right? It's the next size up after the smalls that we just talked about and that we were showing off. So I'm like, okay, this isn't specifically fire related, but it does have this detonate. It does look like it has some fire perks. But the specific like pyromaniac one for medium size, you have to do, it costs pieces of 8 to get the blueprint, right? So I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to do this one first, and then we'll go from there, right? So tracking the blueprint, right? It says, okay, I need the blueprint. I don't even have the blueprint, right? So it's at this other settlement, right? Way up here to the top right of the map. So we will fast travel there. So if you didn't know, you can fast travel as long as you're already, if you're walking around on land, you can fast travel to any place that you've previously visited. It does cost some silver, so that's the drawback. But in all honesty, do it when you if you're not strapped for silver. I highly recommend it because you're going to be able to. A lot of times you're going there to turn in a mission or something anyway, and you're going to earn that silver back plus some versus like how long it will take you to sail to that location, right? So it said it was at the shipwright, so we're at the shipwright. You're gonna have to do some scrolling here unless you want to use the sorting filtering function, right, which is fine too. But yeah, they've got a lot of cosmetics to buy, but here all the way down at the bottom This is, I'm not going to say the name of the ship because I can't, but yeah, this is the medium ship that we were looking for, right? And it's even marked there for us. So we'll buy this ship, right? Or this is the blueprint. So now we can build it, but we're missing some of the materials. You can see in the top right, we're tracking the blueprint still. We don't have enough silver anymore after spending it on the blueprint. But we also need some steel ingots and some fine, what was some sort of fiber or cloth or something. I don't know how to say that word either. I'm bad pronouncing things, right? Fine rammy, I guess. That's how I would say it. I'm probably saying it wrong. But so you can see where those materials are, right? So this is what it looks like when you're tracking it, right? So you can either, you know, hunt down some ships along this trade route, or here is actually where it's produced at this sort of like settlement or factory, whatever you want to call it, right? So I'm going to mark that, and then I would just go over there, and what I would do is I would buy some and then also plunder it if I could, you know? But so here we're back in the small ship, right? This is the one you could buy early on, and I'll show you. So we're actually, these are tier 8 ships, right? So you can see they're higher level than me, right? And we're still wrecking them pretty good. And you can see we actually triggered a fire, and it triggered fires on the other 2 guys that were near him. And so you can see that everybody's got health down, right? Because everyone's short health because of the fires that we triggered there, right? So this is kind of what I was talking about. It definitely feels, it took me a little bit to get used to the arch, right, and aiming and stuff like that. Like, you got to practice with this, right? But it definitely felt, overpowered. It is kind of, it does start getting to be a struggle when you're starting to fight up against, like, the level 10s. So, like, this 8 was, like, kind of the sweet spot for really being able to wreck enemy ships, right? And I did come across some in this similar mission that I was working on with this one. I think I'm collecting materials for like my refinery or something, And yeah, see, he's just gonna burn, I think. Yeah, is he on fire? No, and yeah, we're gonna have to trigger it again, or we're gonna have to hit him again, and he'll probably die. But yeah, so I was working on some, missions, and it was giving me these tier 8 guys, right? And I did run into some that were using torpedoes, and torpedoes I feel like are real easy to dodge, but when you don't, man, they hit hard, right? So there was a little bit of struggle when I ran into, I did a similar mission with tier 8s, and they had torpedoes. But yeah, these guys, we made really short work of them, and it was kind of no contest, right? And so now we're able to hunt down the last guy who has the loot that we need, right, that we're stealing from him. And then this is kind of why I liked having the long guns on the front, because if you're chasing somebody down, like, these are a little bit easier to get hits, right? And so if you're trying to trigger some sort of status effect or something, even if you hit the sails, a lot of times that can be helpful, right? You can do just a little bit of damage. Anything helps, right? So that's why I liked having the long guns on the front. But I mean, if you really wanted to go all out DPS, I would probably put the fire bombards all the way around the ship, right? But yeah, and then the other too is like when you have 2 different styles of weapons, you've got to have both those kinds of ammo on the ship, right? So just something else to kind of think about. And then you see me using the brace a lot, but it definitely is super, super helpful. So another just little tip, like that using the brace when you know you're going to take a hit is huge. Like that saves you tons and tons of health. And I've noticed that makes a big difference in a lot of cases, in most cases, right? Like there's probably some scenarios where it's kind of garbage, but yeah, for the most part, I'm definitely able to tell, like it's super helpful. Definitely mitigates a ton of damage if you can time that right? So yeah, so this guy, we finish him off with fire, and then we kind of collect our loot there. And that will be our video for the day, guys. Thank you so much for watching us all the way through. Again, fire bombards, that seems to be the way to go, at least for me, And it may have just been my preference early on in the game. I'm a huge fan of like damage over time weapons that like trigger, status effects and stuff like that. So, but yep. So stay tuned. We will keep doing more Skull and Bones videos in the future. So make sure you're following the channel, and yeah, we'll see you next time.